The title today is Expressions Review number 1. Let's first review some integers. So for multiplying and dividing, and then we'll do add and subtract over here. So I'll do add and subtract. Okay, so I'm just going to put the rules right here. So the rules for multiplying and dividing is we count negative signs. And then this will be for our answer. Count negative signs, and then this would be our answer. So if we have one negative sign, that means our answer is negative. If we have two negative signs, then our answer is positive. And that's basically the rules right there. So let's give us some examples. Okay, since this is simple, we have 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. So the question is, what happens if we have one negative? There's one negative sign. That means our answer will be negative. If there are 2 negative signs, then our answer is just positive. All right, so that is how you know. There's one multiply, one negative, negative, 2 negatives, cancel. It's just positive. When dealing with adding and subtracting, we're basically just going to count up the negatives. Well, we're going to put the negatives and positives together and see what's left. So if we have one negative and one positive, that's 0. If you remember, we called that a 0 pair. And if you want to, you can think of a negative as being cold and a positive as being hot. Cold and hot. Do a quick example. So if I have 1 minus 3, if you remember 1 minus 3, that's the same as 1 and negative 3. Right? That's the same thing. So notice you have 1 positive and 3 negatives. So if I went ahead and if I had 3 negatives and I have 1 positive, and if you make those into, remember, 1 hot and 1 cold is 0. And so what do you have left? 2 negatives. The answer is negative 2. So don't forget that minus 3 is the same as negative 3. So all we're doing is we're just counting up positives and negatives. And if there's positive and negatives, they're going to subtract each other, and you're going to see what's left. Notice I did not really add these together. I just said there's 1 positive and 3 negatives. The result is negative 2. Some people make the mistake of saying 3 and 1 is 4 and there's 1 negative. That would be wrong. That's not how you do it. You count up your positives and negatives and you let them cancel each other. So I hope that clarifies some errors that you had. Our first example is negative 10 minus the quantity 3 plus 5. So that's the same thing as negative 10 minus 3 plus 5 is 8. Okay, and if I rewrite this, that's the same thing as negative 10. Remember, minus 8 is the same thing as adding negative 8. So you can think of them as the same. Minus 8 and negative 8 are the same. So negative 10, 10 negatives, and 8 negatives. 10 and 8 negatives makes a total of 18 negatives. We're not multiplying. Okay, we're not saying 2 negatives cancel. That only is for multiplying and dividing. We're just counting negatives and positives. Okay, if you want to, go ahead and put a little squiggly line between it, separate it. Okay, so right away you should see that I'm subtracting a negative. That's the big plus. That's like adding the opposite. So really this is negative 4 plus 10. And minus 1 is the same as negative 1. Same result. Okay, so I'll do 2 numbers at a time. So I'll take care of this. Negative 4 and 10. That's the same as 10 take away 4. That's 6. So you have 6, and then you have negative 1. All right, and 6 and negative 1 is, what, 6 minus 1, that's 5. Positive 5. Now, if you want to, when you get them separate like this, you can just total up your negatives and total up your positives. Sometimes that's faster. Okay, now that we did some integers, let's practice some algebraic expressions. Negative 2x plus 7 minus 10 plus 6x. So let's first put together the coefficients. So if I do that, I have negative 2x and I have a positive 6x. 2 negatives and 6 positives. Okay, well there's going to be more positives. They cancel out. Should be 4x, right? We're just counting positives and negatives. All right, now I have, in the center there, I have this, right? I have a 7 and a negative 10. That's a negative 10. Minus 10 and negative 10, same result. So 10 negatives and 7 positives. Well, there's more negatives. It's going to be negative because there's more negatives. And 10 take away 7 is 3. So after you do 0 pairs, you will see you have 3 negatives. It's more cold than it is hot. And remember, we cannot combine these because these are not like terms. Okay, our next one. This quantity, 5x minus 6, plus this quantity, (2x plus 5). Okay, now what's interesting is you don't see any, there's no number outside of here. There's no number. Matter of fact, if there was, it would be the number 1. So watch this for a minute. If I put a 1 right here, right, this would be the same thing as 1 times 5x is 5x. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. 1 times 2x is 2x. 1 times 5 is 5. Do you notice that you don't even need those parentheses? They're unnecessary. So please try not to get confused when you see those, because there's no number in front to distribute. All right, so now let's put together our like terms. I have a 5x, we have a 5x, and a 2x, positive 2x. So 5x's, 5 and 2. 5 positives, 2 positives, that's 7 positives. Now let's look at the negatives, the constants. There's a negative 6, and there's a positive 5. Okay, they're different signs, so you got to subtract them, right? I know there's more negatives, so it's going to be negative, just because there's more of them. 6 take away 5 is 1. Negative 1. And that is your answer. That's all you can do. You simplified the expression, all that can be done. So this one's a little tricky, a little different. Since I've reached the bottom line, I'm just going to go up as high as I can and go down again. We'll do a little distributive property. So we have 3 times the quantity negative 4x minus 1. So you want to take each one on the outside times the inside. So I'll take 3 times negative 4. 3 times 4 is 12, so it's 12x, and there's 1 negative. Okay, then I do 3 times, now this is a minus 1 and negative 1 are the same result. 3 times 1 is 3, and there's 1 negative. I'm multiplying 1 negative. So it's negative, or minus, same result. And that is all you can do to that problem. Next one, we have negative 2 times the quantity 3x minus 4. All right, so we need to take the outside times each one inside. So negative 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So it's 6x. And there's 1 negative. I'm multiplying with 1 negative. Next one, we have negative 2 times, now this minus 4 is the same as negative 4. Always include the sign in front of it. 2 times 4 is 8. But I'm multiplying 2 negatives, so they cancel. It's a positive. Positive 8, or plus 8. And that's all you can do. It's simplified. Okay, number 7. 5 minus 3 times the quantity negative 2x plus 4. Now most people, when they see this, they want to subtract. Remember, you need to do distributive first. Do distributive first. So let's see, I'll take negative 3 times each one inside. So 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so that's 6x. And I'm using 2 negatives. I'm multiplying 2 negatives, so that means it's positive. So you know what, I'll just put a plus in front of it. Then I have 3 times 4, negative 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And I'm doing, remember, this is a positive 4, and that's a negative 3. There's 1 negative. Therefore, this is negative 12. When multiplying, count the negatives. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring this 5 down. Okay, so now we're not doing the rules of multiplying or dividing. Now we're just combining things together, positive and negative. So let's see, what do I have here? I have a positive 6x. Just one 6x. A 6x. And then I have a 5, positive 5, and a negative 12. See, whatever's in front of the number, that's its sign. So I have 12 negatives and 5 positives. Now think of the zero pairs canceling each other out. What would you have left? I know we'd have more negatives left after subtracting them. So I just take 12, take away 5 is 7. So it's 6x minus 7. And that's all you can do to this. You cannot do any more. Okay, just one more problem. Zoom in there a little bit. So we have 4 times a quantity x minus 3. And 2 times a quantity. So it looks like we're going to be doing, oops, zoomed in too much there. We'll do 2 distributive properties. Okay, so we want to take the outside times the inside. So we'll take this 4. Now wait a minute, there's no number there. Well, if there's no number, it must be the invisible 1. The invisible, miserable 1. And 1 is miserable because 1 is the loneliest number. So 4 times 1 is just 4, so this is 4x. Then I have 4 times, now that's a negative 3. Minus 3, negative 3, same result. 4 times 3 is 12. And there's 1 negative. So that's minus. It's negative. Minus and negative, think of them the same. All right, now before I put a plus or minus, let's just look at this. I have 2 times 3. Actually, that's a negative 3, right? So 2 times 3 is 6. And there's 1 negative. So that's a minus. Negative 6x. Then I have 2 times positive 1. Or just 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And there are no negatives. I'm not multiplying with any negatives. So it's just a positive 2. So can you see that when I put negative in front, it's the same. If I moved it over here, it'd be 4x minus 12 minus 6x. Or I could put a plus there. It doesn't really matter because it's still minus 6x and negative 6x are the same result. Okay, let's put things together. So I have a 4x and a negative 6x. 4 and negative 6. Okay, so think of 4 negatives and 6 positives. They subtract, I'm sorry, 4 positives, 6 negatives. You're going to have negative 2x, right? Because there's more negatives. Over here, we have negative 12 and a positive 2. So let's put those together. 12 negatives and 2 positives. Okay, so you subtract them, right? And that's going to give you negative 10. I'm subtracting them because they're different, positive and negative. And that is your answer. And you cannot do anything more because they're not like terms.